Ah, fuck. Immediately knew I fucked up with the feedback once again. Anyway, Piss and Vinegar Day 72. Good morning, goddammit. Back in rear delts. And I'm still super fucking sick. And my lungs are still super fucked. So if I'm coughing like a maniac throughout this video, I apologize. But you gotta keep training when you're sick. Unless you're like really, really sick, or you're dying of, dysentery or AIDS or something, maybe don't train. But if you just got a little head cold, get in the gym and train. No excuses. And so back in rear delts. Today was a good session. Well, again, I keep fucking up my schedule. I'm narrating this the day after, but anyway, for all intents and purposes, this was yesterday. And today's subject is laser focus and true intensity. So lately I feel like I've been slacking on my workouts. I feel like certain exercises, certain sets, I'm not giving it my all. I'm not focusing as much as I could, or nearly as much as I could. I'm not going to the utmost ends of failure. I'm hitting mechanical failure, sure. Am I going beyond failure with drop sets and rest pauses? Sure. But I'm not going beyond failure in the sense that I'm grinding out the last rep. The last futile rep that you're not going to get, you still need to grind that rep. You still need to keep pushing, because sometimes you might even get that rep. And a lot of the times on accessory movements, you will definitely get that rep. And that's the main thing is, on my big compound movements, a lot of times I am hitting absolute failure. It is very easy to take a chin up to failure, because the resistance curve and the way the movement works, it's blatant when you fail. You can't get your chin over the bar. Cool, you failed. But even then, today, I spent 10-15 seconds before I did the set and thought, all right, I'm going to take this set to fucking total failure. And today, I genuinely think I got a rep that I would have otherwise not have gotten had I not thought about it preemptively with focus and intensity. And my lats felt more. I felt my lats more. I felt my lats aching. It was just harder. So I feel like I've been slacking a little bit. I feel like I've been overcompensating with my drop sets, rest pauses, force reps, etc., to make up for the fact that my initial main set, the biggest bang for your buck set, has been lacking a little bit. And I noticed that watching Dorian Yates and Mike Mensa, the goats of high intensity, that they didn't do anywhere as many drop sets, rest pauses, etc. as I do, which, might be seen as laziness, like, well, they don't do as much as I do. But really what they were doing is making much more out of the actual initial set. And I mean, I might be being hypervigilant here, because I feel like for the most part I do train to absolute fucking failure, but I feel like I'm not being, at the very least, I'm not being focused enough. I'm not spending enough time before my exercises or mid-exercise thinking about what I'm doing and thinking about giving it my absolute all, which might be the difference between 8 reps and 12 reps, or progression and not progression, or the difference between 5% extra muscle damage that equates to more muscular adaptations. So essentially, and a great example of this is when I was doing the chin up. I spent 15 seconds before doing the set to think about what I was going to do, think about the muscles contracting, think about nothing else during the set, not thinking about fucking, what I had for breakfast, or an argument I had with someone the day before, or, some political fucking vote, or some stupid shit that's going on in my life. Rather than thinking about that, it was just simply laser focused, contract your lats, go to absolute failure, be a physical beast. And in the process of doing that, I went, oh wait, hold on, fuck, I didn't set up my drop set correctly, because I don't have a resistance band ready to go for when I want to do my drop set immediately. Which means if I hadn't have thought about that preemptively, I would have had to then spend 30-40 seconds walking around trying to find my resistance band, setting it up over the pillar, and then getting into the next drop set, which would be a waste of a drop set, because the whole idea of a drop set is that you get into it immediately after the fact. Now obviously shit ain't that serious, but every percentage counts. If you're missing some little percentage, if you miss 50 of those, you've missed 50% of potential gains that you might have had. And that's one of the things that Dorian Yates and Mike both were very adamant about, which is laser focused. And that's, obviously part of why volume's so fucking stupid is It's impossible to be laser focused throughout a 2-hour workout that you're not putting all the effort into one set. You're putting it into like 4 different sets of like 16 different fucking exercise selections. And so yeah, high intensity will indeed make you more focused by proxy of the fact that you're doing high intensity. But you shouldn't rest on your laurels. You shouldn't use the fact that high intensity forces you to be more focused to then be unfocused. You should double down on the philosophy of high intensity and laser in. And obviously this is hard nowadays, especially for Zoomers out there, 16, 17-year-old kids who are watching fucking TikTok reels and Instagram reels all day. But even people of my generation, man, I can barely fucking read a book nowadays because I can't focus. Got that, technology-induced ADHD, which then also goes into your workouts. And I wonder what percentage of my gains are going out of the window due to a lack of focus. So that was an introspective thought I thought about today, and a flaw in my training system, that I'm not focusing enough. I'm not being diligent enough. I need to be more like Dorian and spend the fucking night before thinking about what I'm going to wear, how I'm going to set everything up, what am I going to eat the day before I work out, how am I going to track the muscle, what rep range am I going for, how many reps am I going to go for, am I going to beat that movement by 1 or 2 reps. I've got to think about all these little things more diligently to reap the extra little percentages. And sorry, I paused the recording, I'm back. Where was I? Talking about high intensity. I mean, extrapolating upon this, a lot of us are just so unfocused in all aspects of our life, let alone our training. And, even in my life, there are certain things where I'm just not as focused as I should be, or sometimes I'll fluctuate in focus, depending on, what it is I'm doing, how I'm doing it. Like, funnily enough, when I was cutting weight and I was training, I was more focused, I think, because I was cutting weight. And when you're cutting, you have kind of like hunger instincts, so everything's heightened. And I felt like I was more focused on my workout, albeit the workouts were nowhere as fun or good because the pump sucked and I was weaker. But I was more focused for sure. But also I was more focused because I was doing a bunch of different variations. Like I was attempting new things every sort of session, figuring out what muscles responded to what movements the best before I got into my bulk. I wanted to figure out the best movements, most bang for my buck movements during my cut. Since I wasn't really progressively overloading anyway, I was using that time to figure out what movements work for me. And when the movements were fresh, when the movements were a new movement every single session, I found that I was more focused because it was like exciting to do a new movement, which is kind of lame in the sense that it sucks that some movements aren't as good as other movements, because I like doing a bunch of movements because it's kind of fun. It makes training fresh. It's just not required and not really optimal because you're progressing over all these different movements at once. And that can actually be a benefit sometimes if you're starting to really plateau on a movement. Sometimes it's great to switch out a bunch of different movements to create or override the biological law of accommodation. But with high intensity, it's better to just kind of work on the most bang for your buck movements and maybe switch out an A and B day for different muscle groups. But yeah, that was another thing I noted, is that when I was switching movements out a lot, I was more focused because it was fresh and more fun, and I was having to really think about what I was doing because I was doing a new thing. But when you get complacent in your workouts, you do the same thing over and over again, you start to do them subconsciously, and that's natural. I mean, when was the last time you brushed your teeth and went, all right, brushing my molars here, but then I've got to make sure I get you just do these things subconsciously, and sometimes because you're doing subconsciously, you're not doing them effectively because you're not thinking about what you're doing. You're not necessarily upgrading the thing you're doing. So, for example, with the lat pullover you just saw I was doing, it took me to be conscious for me to realize, I need to add band tension to these because it feels better if I add band tension. Or I was just experimenting, right? Whereas before I was just doing them unconsciously. I wasn't upgrading the movement. I wasn't making it any better because I wasn't thinking about it. So it works two ways. Like, the movement itself won't be as good because you're not focused on what you're doing, and you might not be able to improve the thing you're doing. You can't improve upon your toothbrushing habit. You can't improve upon your culinary skills if you don't look up new recipes. So there might be something to switching out exercises every now and then for that reason alone. But also just trying to upgrade my movements, make them better and better and better, whether it be a form adjustment, whether it be a change in handle, like these face pulls slash side rear delt raises that I'm doing here. I originally was doing them with straps. That didn't work anywhere as good as when now I use handles. That's an upgrade. That's potential increase in rear delts. So you have to be very diligent in your training. Dorian Yates used to write down every single detail about his training sessions, every single workout. Was he progressing, regressing? Was a movement working for him? Was it injuring him? Was it doing that? Was it doing this? Etc. And I think that's one thing that I need to start doing too, is are the movements ideal? Can I make them better? Should I switch it out? Should I add an extra movement in for a different reasoning? Is this handle hitting my lats this way, but then a different handle hits it this way, and thus I need to do like a bunch of drop sets in order to hit them from different angles or whatever. Like, anyway, food for thought. Be focused, zoned in, train intense, be conscious. If that's kind of the message today, is just be conscious. And that will help you in a lot of different areas, not just your training. If you're conscious and constantly trying to strive for greatness, I mean, this is starting to sound like a fucking self-help book right now. But if you're constantly trying to upgrade what you're doing, I mean, obviously, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. There are certain movements that I do that I don't need to do anything for. But there are other movements that I could potentially be doing better. Another part here is posing. In the last 70 days of this piss and vinegar training that I've been doing, I haven't spent a single iota of my time on trying to learn how to pose better. And that's another thing. Posing won't necessarily add a whole lot to your physique, but it's part of the bodybuilding process, and everything little percentage adds up, and that's just part of the kind of path of bodybuilding. You want to be doing all the different things that bodybuilders do to be on that path. So again, more complacency, more unconscious thoughts. I need to start watching my posing, and I need to watch posing tutorials. It could be my nutrition, it could be pre-workout optimization, etc. Anyway, might extrapolate upon this topic tomorrow in the idea of optimization, because that's something I also want to sort of talk about, just thinking about that just now. See you guys tomorrow, having a stroke. See you guys for more piss and vinegar tomorrow. Bye-bye.